Hey. Man, I'll tell you what. When that first sip, it's not my first sip, but when that good stuff hits your lips, I'll tell you what, brother, sister, whoever you are and whatever you want to be, that's the good stuff. All right, let's take a minute, ground on in. Let's bring this energy back into. If you're watching, if you're listening, I invite you to take with me a deep inhale. Slow exhale out your mouth. Deep inhale through your nose. Long exhale out your mouth. One more time at your pace. Inhale. Let it go. Man, doesn't that just feel good? Just taking a minute, doing some breath. When people think breath work, they think it's got to be this thing where you're getting into it and you're pushing the breath and you're going really hard. And yeah, there's a time for that, but there's also a time to just be with the breath and maybe not necessarily call it breath work, but just being engaged with your breath. And I feel like breath work in conjunction with meditation, with prayer, with all these ways in which we connect to ourselves and the divine, they are purely vehicles to bring us deeper within ourselves and connecting us to something higher beyond. And it's not necessarily about how good of a breath work participant you are, how good of a meditator you are, how good of a XYZ. It's about using the tools to be in the vehicle of transcendence of self, which is so beautiful and so powerful. This feels so good to be back behind the camera. I had to take some time away just to be with some things going on in my life. I feel every time when I make videos or I have one of our Illuminate events, the material that we go over in these events or the material that I talk about in this form and on TikTok and Instagram, God sure does have a great way of testing me to make sure that I am really living and being about the things that I'm talking about, which I'm grateful for. And it's also, a lot sometimes. So, taking time away to reflect and really see where am I coming from and what am I creating was what was needed. And man, it's not taken enough, I think, from a lot of us. You know, like we're just so ingrained to continue pushing that needle forward. And the idea of pausing, a sacred pause, a rest, is viewed as this inadequacy, this inefficient use of time. And that is something that I have really sat with for a while and continue to sit with, because I feel well before I am forced into submission that I will need to rest. I will need to take time to recharge, and then I'll keep pushing, I'll keep going, and then eventually life puts me in situations where I'm quite literally forced to sit down and to rest and to be. And the essence of today's conversation is the practice of surrender and of flowing, because surrender, we hear that word, it's talked about so often, but yet do we really embrace it? And it's so hard sometimes because we get into this mindset of we think we know best, or we're trying to understand and comprehend the ways our world is working. And then especially too, if you're into the manifesting your reality type of deal, that you can then feel like if something isn't going in the direction that you thought it should be, you're doing something wrong. Or if you had an idea of something and you believe that God is the higher power that is guiding your life, but yet things that are happening in front of you again aren't in the way that you would like them to be, that something's wrong, that you're doing something wrong. And what if it's not? What if there's nothing wrong at all? What if it's just the natural ebb and flow of things? But surrendering especially as someone like me who loves to just keep doing shit and doing stuff. It's very challenging, but yet there was a period in my life where I would get sick and I would feel happy that I was sick because it would give me a genuine excuse to rest. And how silly, you know? Like, how silly to be in a position where I look forward to getting sick because that means I have a valid reason to rest, to sleep, to relax. And what if it doesn't have to be that way? I ask myself, what if there's a different way? What if there's a way of flowing with life in this feminine, receptive, yin-like energy, while also balancing the outward expression of yang, of masculine, of forward drive, creation, stability. Well, creation is also feminine in a way, but you know what I mean. And that to surrender is not weakness. It is not an error. It is nothing wrong. It is simply the sacred pause to allow us to regain our vision, our clarity, our vitality, so that as we continue down our path and our journey, we are truly of the utmost service, because we are fed, we are nourished, we are well. And I notice within a lot of spiritual communities, there is a tendency to honor the sacred act of devoting oneself to service and wanting to put others before the self, which is, of course, the aim of servitude. Yet, can one truly be of authentic service if their cup is not full? You know? I grew up in environments where I watched family members give and give and give until they had nothing left. And they were left with anger and resentment. Now, one thing I will say is, when your well is full, not from anything external, but from the connection you have within yourself and knowing that the work that you are doing is of your true purpose and your dharma and your path, that there's a type of vitality and energy that comes with that. And when you know that your life is fueled from something beyond you, a greater power than you, that there is also a vitalizing energy from that. And also, when we are giving, not from a place of genuine, I want to be of service, but from a place of insecurity and insufficiency. Meaning, for my own example, I felt that I was unlovable, that people didn't want to be around me unless I had something to offer. So that meant always asking if I could help with something, giving things, putting myself down, not in like speaking little to myself, even though I definitely had a history of doing that. But it was not service from a place of the act of service is what fuels me. It was from a place of, if I do these things, then these people are going to like me. If I do these things, I'm going to get some kind of reward. And that's not true service either. In many spiritual texts and in many traditions of being in service, whether that be through Christianity or Hinduism or Buddhism, there are claims that do not be attached to the fruit of the labor, be attached to the labor, the work, because the work is itself the fruit. And so when we are looking at servitude, and I'm connecting this to surrender here, so bear with me. When we are in servitude in an authentic manner, full aligned with who we are to our core and our purpose and what our gifts are, our natural innate gifts that you were born with, that creates a synergy and an energy inside you that allows your well to continue to be full and replenished. And along with that, the act of rest, rejuvenation, also keeps that cup full. And surrendering to life and the flow of life is how we can continue to allow our cup to be full, because we are not constantly wasting energy trying to steer and push and swim against a current that knows what it's doing and knows where it's going. The current of life is leading us back to the infinite ocean of oneness. And yet we think, well, hold on now. I know this is where I'm supposed to be going, but I really feel like I got to be trucking along this way. And so we fight and we strive to get towards somewhere. And we get frustrated that it's not turning out the way we think it should or the way we want it to. And so then this is the other element of surrendering. It's just allowing what's happening, where we are, where we're going to be. And it can often feel like things aren't progressing in a way that it's going to be okay. We can worry and doubt that if things will actually work out. But that's part of the dance of surrender. Is that true surrendership is kind of always a risk, in a way. I mean, it's a risk to the ego, let's be real. Because let's also acknowledge the fact, hold on now, coffee sip before this little baby gets cold. Our soul and our heart, how could that ever take us down the wrong path? Truly, how? How could your soul, your heart, take you down the wrong path? It's your soul, it's your heart that's connected to something beyond you. Dude, like, when that hit me, that changed the game for me entirely. Because I realized that I can let go, and I can surrender, and I can allow things to just unravel the way that they're supposed to, because there is a natural progression and timing of things in life, and the more I try to force and rush and put my own projection of what that should be, just the more pain I feel. And yes, pain is inevitable. Hardship is inevitable in this life. That is what forges us and provides us our character. Of course, easier said than done than when you are in the middle of the storm, but that does not negate the power and the truth of that. And when we learn to surrender to our heart and our soul, to the grace of God and to the power beyond us, life, my friends, it flows so differently. It's so vastly different than when one is working with just what their ego thinks. Because our ego is so loud. Our ego will scream, it will cry, it will shout. I personally feel the ego and the inner child are not necessarily one and the same, but man, they are closely related. Because the more we begin to connect with our inner child, the more we begin to see the ego as the child version of us. Because that child version of us that is based on immaturity, and not immaturity in the sense of like something wrong, but immaturity in the sense of that it does not have the foundational awareness yet due to one growing and living in life. That little kid is still inside of us. And even though we learn, we grow, we evolve, that little version of you, the little version of me, still sits within our being. And all it wants is safety. All it wants is security. All it wants is love, validation of it belongs. And depending on your childhood, that relationship with security, safety, and belonging, for many of us, has been a challenge. Not for everyone, but for many, those elements hit a chord. And so when we can see that our ego is trying to do that for us, we can see the ties and the connection to the inner child. And if there is anything that you do on your path of self-realization and transcendence, it is to connect with our inner child. And I know a lot of people are on that work right now, and thank God for that. And it's so amazing. It's so amazing to connect with that part of ourselves, because it opens and unlocks so many things that you may never have even known about yourself, or things that you were really passionate about and excited when you were younger that you completely forgot about as life went on and did the things that it did. But to know, again, going back to like the servitude thing, to like really embrace how we can best be of service, is to know thyself and to clear one's lens. And when our lens is clear and we see who we are and know what we're about, and yes, the essence of us is always a process and a project that evolves and moves, but there's like this core theme of myself. There's a core theme within you. Music and movement and speaking have always been a core element of me. But I questioned them and put them down because I allowed other people to sway me in other directions when I was younger, and to lose myself in a way. And then to come into this work of healing the relationship with my inner child and myself. And I will also say the inner child has multiple stages. There's like the 1 to 8 year old version of you, then like the 9 to 13-year-old version of you, and then your teenage 13 to 18, 19, and then your early 20s. And it just kind of like all of these phases of you kind of shift and evolve. And you can look back the older you get and be able to see the patterns. And when you look back and you connect them, they all come into dots, and you can heal and establish these relationships. And so when we heal and establish these relationships with ourself, that then allows us to understand how we may be of best service and surrender to the flow of life. And one thing I'll touch in, I said earlier briefly on the element of those who manifest their lives. I heavily believe in manifestation, but not in the direct scheme of I want to manifest a Ferrari, and so I'm just going to think about the Ferrari and hopefully I'll get it. I think that that's true to an extent, but I feel it's more the power of manifestation, the power of the mind, I think is better directed in the extent of just really being able to feel in the felt sense of what it feels like to live in the most authentic version of yourself, and what that would feel like, what that would be like. And that's a whole other conversation to itself. But I brought that up because there's this interesting dance of life has things in place and in store for us that are probably far greater than what our limited perception of reality based off of where we currently are can even comprehend. And also there is a part of us, our soul, I believe, that higher essence of us that can sense and see into the future of what is to come. But it can't see it like a movie. It can't see it in this oracle-esque way. But it can feel the resonance of that timeline. It can feel the resonance of that future state. Because the soul exists in a time that is, well, it exists in a space that is beyond time. Right? Infinity expands forward and back, up and down. It is everywhere and nowhere. It is God in that essence. And so our soul, being connected to that, has access to be able to feel and receive those downloads. And when we can create enough silence and stillness within ourselves, when we surrender to the flow of life, along with being in full alignment with our path, we begin to then align with what are the right actions and choices. And then when we come into our meditation practice, when we come into our reflective skills, we can sit with that and begin to envision the felt sense of what it feels like to be in your fully empowered, embodied state. Because I'm sure if I was with you right now and I asked you, do you have an idea of what the highest 110% expression, 111% expression of you looks like and feels like? Some of you may say, I don't know. Some of you may say, I kind of got an idea. But I really think that all of us have this idea of what it would look like to be at our full capacity. And that's the ideal that we attain for. But again, when we clear our own lens, we can see that truthfully. Because if you are operating from a place of wounded, injured insecurity, and that's not a bad thing if you are there, I'm not saying that in a negative context. I'm saying that depending on the state of mind you are in, you will see things differently. So if you are seeing them from this longing from insecurity and pain, the things that you think you want may not actually be the highest expression of what you actually want. And so, my friends, this is a conversation that we could just keep going on, right? Because there's so many examples and ways to articulate it, but I hope you see this dance we're creating together. The surrendering to the flow of life is really just about embracing you to the highest extent, the authentic, real version of you. And the more you connect within yourself and connect to God and the divine powers that be, you begin to align your path with something that is far greater than what the egoic mind can think of, because the egoic mind is just based on survival, which is needed. But in times like right now, where there is so much going on in the world, connecting with our heart and our soul has never been more important. And so my challenge to you, my offer to you, is where are you not surrendering? What little intuitive pings are you getting inside your being that you're doubting still? That you're questioning it's too good to be true, or that can't possibly be the way because of X, Y, and Z bullshit reason? Where are you not surrendering? And where can you create space to allow that in your life? Because the only thing you're surrendering to is your ego. And what you gain, your soul. Shoot, man. Come on, brother. Dude. Come on. So, let me know in the comments. Comment on Spotify, YouTube, whichever one of these you're watching it on. Let me see. What do I want to put down there? Yeah. What are you wanting and willing to surrender to? Claim it. For me, it was quite recently, some minor, not like injuries, but some setbacks physically in my body that have forced me to change. Okay, great example. So my knee and my arm, my bicep have had some issues, and that caused me to halt my training completely. And if you know me, training is my life. It's a big part of my life. I love it. And that really messed with my head because I couldn't move. I could move, but I couldn't train and feel my body in the way that I wanted to. And that was really messing with me. And then eventually that caused me to go down some rabbit holes on how to heal myself. And now my body's doing way better. And I ended up discovering I just started surfing. And because I was like, well, I can't run, I can't do much. So what else can I do? And I just started surfing the other day, and don't know how I've spent almost 28 years of my life not knowing about that. Well, obviously I knew about it, and I've been in San Diego for 2 years, which is a great place for surfing. But had I had not had this injury thing come about, it wouldn't have motivated me to want to actually go and take the initiative to get out there and go do it. And now I'm in love. So that's freaking sweet. And then also along with that, I've learned about some other training modalities that are really captivating my mind and completely transforming my ideology and personal belief systems on training the body, and which I'm now able to apply to my clients. And I'm so excited for what's to come. And that came from, and it was a fight, but it came from surrendering. I didn't surrender initially. I really fought that shit. I did not want to stop. I And I still love the old style of training I was doing, a lot of Olympic lifting, a lot of power stuff, and I was just doing too much. And that sacred pause really showed me where I needed to slow down. And so what, like, that's a small example because surrendership can be huge. But regardless, had I had not surrendered, I wouldn't have found some really cool things that I'm really enjoying. So for you, what are you willing to surrender to? Leave it in the comment section. If you're on YouTube, like, subscribe, do the thing, support your boy. If you're on Spotify, follow, leave a review, let me know what you think. And I freaking love you guys. I'm releasing this in July, and if you're watching this now, coming up August 8th, we are going to have our next Illuminate event. This is going to be at Kate Sessions if you're in San Diego. If you're not in San Diego, get out here to San Diego and come to our event on August 8th, 6:30 p.m. at Kate Sessions Park. We got our permits again, so it's going to be great. Our last one was incredible. So more details to come to that. I'll talk about that on my Instagram, so if you don't follow me on social media, all that's in the description below. Besides that, y'all, life is incredible. It's challenging, it's hard, it's confusing, it's so rich and thick. Ram Dass has one of those sayings, is like, it's so much. It's like a serving of baklava, you know? Go ahead, have another serving. I love that. I love that so much. And it is true, because there's so many layers, and it's so wonderful and incredible. God bless you. Have an amazing rest of your day. Much love.